Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly demo the game Gaggled. Now, what you're about to watch is a tabletop simulator interview between myself and the developer of this game, and I have to stress that this game is still under development. What you're seeing here is not fully reflective of the finished product. From my understanding, from what the developer tells me, he wants to launch the game on Kickstarter in April of 2023, but, dates may be pushed back, the art, may not be final, all of that jazz. So just keep that in the back of your mind. This is very much a prototype at this point. So in this interview, we'll be talking about how the game is played, but I wanted to give you a quick primer ahead of time. Gaggled is a bidding game to create the best gaggle of geese. This game supports 1 to 4 players, it's for ages 12 and up, and the average play time is less than 30 minutes. Now I'm looking at the Game Crafter page, and it's not available for sale at the present time. As I mentioned, this is very much a prototype copy. But if you want to read more about the game, go ahead and just pause the video here. There's a bunch of information, but suffice it to say, players will be bidding on these victory point cards throughout the game using their own unique deck, and they'll be able to win these victory point cards, and the player with the most victory points at the end will win. Now, that's an oversimplification of what's going on here, but that should just give you a quick heads up as to what's going on. If you'd like to learn more information about this game, then click on links in the below description. All right, so without further ado, enjoy the interview.
So yeah, marketing seems to be a huge portion of why things either pass or fail.
Mm-hmm. So I guess tell me about Gaggled here. It seems to be fairly simple. It's a game where, from the looks of it, you're bidding on victory point cards to try and win them.
Correct. So basically, you take control of one of the 4 geese, and you're trying to build your gaggle, which is a group of geese, to be the biggest, the best. And it does use bidding mechanics. And one thing that helps kind of like stand this out versus other bidding games is, like you said, it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And also there are negative value cards.
Okay.
And
Is it on your deck, or I'll just quickly take a look
no,
at the different cards here. Okay, so it looks like a person's deck is numbered possibly
1 through
1 through
10.
10. Okay.
And so everybody has, the same starting cards, so everything is balanced that way.
Okay.
But the other deck, where the cards you're actually bidding on,
Okay.
can be negative or positive value. And so, you have 10 cards to start with. There are 13 cards, I think, in the middle.
Okay.
And so you don't know for sure which of the 10 cards are going to come out. Only 10 are going to come out of the 13. So you could get a hand where you're bidding on 6 negative cards, and you could
Okay.
get a hand where you're bidding on, I think it's 7 or 8 positive cards. So there's a range there of just unknown, but you and everybody else have a balanced chance to get them. You just don't know what's coming out. And the other thing that sets us apart is when there's a tie, which often is the case when you have 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, this game, when I first started, had 6, but 6 doesn't work. I had to keep knocking off a player at a time as, we did different playthroughs,
Mm-hmm.
and realized that everybody was tying. So there can't be too many times. But when there is a tie, it goes so that if the 2 people tie for the top number, it goes to the next person, which creates chaos, which is
I see.
fun.
So if 2 people bid 10, for example,
Yep,
and the third person bids 9, that person that bid with the 9 would win the card.
correct. And
Okay.
it gets even worse when you're bidding on a negative number.
Ooh, I can imagine how that would go. Um,
Yeah.
so why would you ever want to bid high on a negative number? I mean, is there
No,
a reason for doing that?
it's your last card left.
Oh, I see. So if you don't have any other cards to work with.
Correct. So that's part of the mystery of what's coming out, because you could throw out a 3 first, and you're like, okay, do I bid high? Do I bid somewhere in the middle? Do I bid low? And then, as you're progressing, okay, so it's been mainly high cards, so there's low cards coming left. You get to
Mhm.
the end, you have like a 4 and a 5, and the negative 9 comes out.
So you're kind of screwed.
Yeah,
I
so
can
you
see
got
what you're saying. Yeah.
So you got to kind of plan not just for what's out now, but what could be,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know if it's going to be negative or positive unless you're very good at card counting and it's been all positive or negative the entire time, which doesn't usually happen. Usually it's pretty good mix.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the deck now, and it looks like there's a fairly good amount of negative cards in here. Is it what did you say, half and half distribution of negative and positive, or
It's
is
a little bit better than it's a little bit better than half. No,
okay.
actually, no, I think it is. So I've had to tweak things.
Mm-hmm.
So originally there was a lot, I would say it was like 60-40 positive and negative,
Mm-hmm.
but because I was trying to get the amount of cards down to 52, for finance reasons, because
Yeah.
the way it gets printed, they get printed in sheets of 18.
Right.
Um, I ended up shaving off some of the positive ones to tested it out both ways, and I found it was more fun having it even than say more negative than positive, or a little bit more positive than negative. It ended up being
Mm-hmm.
just a better distribution half now.
That makes for a more chaotic game too, because you never know which way it's going to sway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the game is simple, it's fun, and it's pure chaos, depending on how the how the hand is going.
Is there a huge difference between, like, say, a two-player game and a four-player game? I imagine with four players, there's
Yes.
a lot more ties going on.
That's
Mhm.
exactly 3 or 4 players, way more ties. First, when it's just 2 players, it's significantly more leans towards strategy.
Mhm.
Um, than chaos. With 3 or 4 people, it's still strategy, but definitely more chaotic because, like you said, ties. So you could get a card that you weren't anticipating,
Mhm.
good or bad. Like you thought you were going to lose,
Mhm.
and you end up getting it.
Makes sense. Are there is there like a two-player variant to where you could play with, say, two deck of cards, and then you play two cards on your turn, so that there's more chances for tying? I was just curious if there's like a two-player variant that let you do stuff like that.
No, I hadn't really put any thought to doing anything like that.
Okay.
Not at this time. I mean,
Mhm.
you could always do house rules.
That's cool. No, I'm just spitballing. One of the most fun things when it comes to, at least on my end, is figuring out different variants for games that I play, and I love because it's usually just my girlfriend and I. We never usually have three or four people playing. We always come up with some kind of two-player variant or house role to make it either more chaotic or more crazy or more balanced, that kind of thing. So I was just curious. Um, so yeah, it seems like the game is fairly quick to play as well. I mean, if you've got 10 cards, and I'm guessing the game lasts 10 rounds, then when your deck runs out, that's it.
Yes, and
Okay.
then so you play one more round, then you have people. So with 2 people, it's the best of 3 rounds. 3 people, it's the best of 4 rounds. 4 people, it's the best of 5 rounds. You just keep totaling your score for the number of rounds you're playing.
Oh, I see. So your score does carry over from one round to the next.
Correct.
Okay. And if you wanted to play a longer game, you could add more rounds, or if you just wanted to,
Again,
yeah.
yeah, you could do whatever house rules. The game is balanced,
Mm-hmm.
so you can tweak it however um you would like to. I mean, you can always,
Mm-hmm.
play multiple games too.
That's cool.
So like somebody wins the first, so you play 3 games
Mm-hmm.
with 3 rounds each if it's 2 people.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, So yeah, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention, or?
No, I think we covered it. Like you said, it is a very simple game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
Ha-
know, it
mhm.
it was designed for with 6 people in mind.
Okay. How did you come
And
up with this? I'm just curious. Is this inspired by another game, like, say, For Sale or No Thanks or anything like that, or do you have?
so the
Hmm.
so the games that I would say that inspired me for this particular game would be Hearts,
Hearts? Okay.
Insidious 7, and Dutch Blitz.
Okay. I've played Hearts, but not the other two. I'm assuming they're pretty good if you like them.
Yeah, Insidious 7 is a game. where you're trying to win tricks, sort of like Hearts. It's actually very similar.
Oh, okay.
And then Dutch Blitz is a very fast-paced game where you're trying to get cards down as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it was designed for 4 players. The colors are very simple, and the game is very simple.
Okay.
So I was trying to go for a game that, again, is balanced, like those 4 games are to a point, or 3 games
Mm-hmm.
are to a point. Fast-paced, colorful, simple.
Makes sense. Do you have any plans for your Kickstarter in terms of, like, I know you mentioned that you were looking at an April, May date depending on situations and circumstances. Do you have a cost, like a lot of developers have on the right side of the Kickstarter page, pledge $10 for the full game and then $20 for the premium and $30 for. Do you have any idea for a tier list or a cost or what the?
So
Mm-hmm,
So that's one of the things I'm still tweaking. So
mm-hmm,
with Kickstarter, one of the things that everybody gets in trouble with is one, taxes, and two,
mm-hmm.
when it comes to costs, and the fees.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with Kickstarter, you have to you have to worry about local taxes in all the different states.
Mm-hmm,
So you got to factor that in. You got to factor in there's a stripe fee, which is the vendor that Kickstarter is using to process the fees.
mm-hmm,
Or process the purchases. So
mm-hmm.
they have a 5% fee. And then Kickstarter charges, I think, about 5%. So you're looking at 10% plus, maximum of like 7% because you don't know what state people are buying things from. I know my state is 7%. I think it's one of the higher ones. So you're looking at a 17% markup just on just fees for being on Kickstarter. So one of the things people get in trouble is they don't take into account those things, especially the taxes.
Right.
So I got to build that into my price. So right now I'm looking at probably about $5 or $6 for like a printer play version. And then the game is probably going to be somewhere between 17 and 20. And the reason why it's so high compared to a lot of card games that are similar size
Mm-hmm.
is because I'm going for a small run.
Right. That makes sense. When you're mass producing a game, you can usually get a bulk price for a lot cheaper. But
Y-
I've heard the horror stories. I've never published a game on the Game Crafter, but in
Yes.
order to publish a game on the Game Crafter, like if you're doing 5 or 10 copies, typically it's expensive. I've seen people have to list their games on the Game Crafter for $10 or $20 above typical just to sort of break even on the printing costs and all that. So yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. So at 10 you get a discount, but the discount that you would really want is around like 100 copies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as would this be my first Kickstarter? I mean, it'd be nice,
Mm-hmm.
but I would be amazed if it actually got that high. Um,
Do you have any
but
stretch goals planned as well, or like better quality cards, or I don't know what else you would add. Like some developers add like tokens and acrylic tokens instead of plastic tokens. With this being only cards, I'm not sure what other stretch goals you could create. But did you have any in mind? Or
so with this being my first Kickstarter and
mm,
also stretch goals being another pitfall that people fall into,
yep.
I decided not to because the
Hmm.
cost of this is already going to be high.
Right.
I have stuff that I have add-ons that you can add.
Okay.
Um, but as far as stretch goals, so the strategy that I'm going with is just make the cards as good as they can be to start with.
Okay.
So I'm not going to like increase like the quality of the cards. I'm just going to start at a high quality.
Hmm.
Um, and so whoever buys it gets the best they can get and take it from there.
That's cool. Okay. So yeah, it looks like we've covered everything then. So like you said, in April to May Kickstarter launch ish. I mean, that could
Yeah.
obviously subject to change at this point. Do you have any plans on changing like the rules or the art
Oh,
or anything like that between now and then?
no, the art has all been redone. There's I think even in this version, there's 3 cards that have to have slight adjustments because certain things aren't. I'm very particular about things being centered
Mm-hmm.
and having printed the set and had it delivered to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is like a smidget off. So there's 3 cards that get fixed,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing being changed to the rules. The rules I got to get graphics and stuff inside of them. they're just text right now, but
Hmm.
there's nothing major changing to them. The game has been play tested a bajillion times. Everything has been kind of like hashed out. As far as I know, there's no surprises that I haven't seen,
Hmm.
that people would have playing the game. So
Okay, fair
no
enough.
mechanics are changing.
Cool. All right. Well, unless you've got something else to add, we'll keep this nice, short, and simple and sweet. Um, so yeah, is there a good link? Like, I know that you gave me a link to your Game Crafter page. Is that a private page, can I link people to that page for now until you start either selling it or just for informational purposes?
Uh, that you can definitely link people to. Right now, they won't be able to purchase it, and I'm not going to enable purchasing it until after the Kickstarter. Unfortunately, my Kickstarter page is not active yet.
Okay.
It's in the process of being built, but I want to have certain things set up before it goes into like a pre-Kickstarter mode.
Right.
You can still change things, but certain things they don't, they don't want certain things changed. So I just have to have certain or geese in a row.
Right.
Um, before that launches, and I'm hoping to have that done soon. But just for right now, yeah, that's fine. And I'll probably put a link to my Kickstarter on that page too.
Great. And then yeah, once you get your Kickstarter link going, I'll add that link to the existing video, so no worries there.
That'd be
Um,
very helpful.
yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure to talking to you as well.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.